Welcome to The Secrets of Success. By following the proven techniques of the guests who appear on this series, you'll learn that even successful people run into detours and failures, and how you can apply their success techniques to change your life.
You're now listening to the most unique show on radio, the show dedicated to making you a success. If you want your customers to go away, just ignore them, says our author guest, Micah Solomon. Micah, thanks for being with us today.
Oh, thank you so much.
Now, you've written a fascinating book on customer service, so I'm going to have fun with this because I think that's a very important topic. I know it means a lot to me, and I'm sure to our audience. But you start out by saying only the highest level of customer service is good enough. Isn't it, if a company scored, let's say, an 85 or a 90, isn't that adequate for most companies, or do they really have to go for the stars?
It's a great question, and don't worry, I won't say it's a great question, all your questions, even if they are. But the first one, that's a really great question. So, yeah, you can satisfy customers with by giving perfectly competent service, what I would call satisfactory customer service. But the problem is that you can do that and still be a commodity in their mind. When someone gets a more convenient location opened, or they charge a few cents less than you, or even if they do things exactly the same as you, customers can have a short memory and just go to the other company. If you want to use customer service as an actual competitive tool, then you need to go above and beyond. Maybe not a whole lot above and beyond, but a little bit above and beyond. And usually that is by providing a little more personalization, a little more personal engagement.
And as I said to you before the show, I know myself, if a business just goes a little bit out of their way, and it can be just making a call to me to say the product is in, or it won't be in for 3 days, or the shipment has gone out, that really moves them up the line with me 90-95%. So they don't have to do much. I mean, it's just, I guess, what we would call common courtesy in the real world. But a lot of businesses seem to forget that.
Ironically named, right?
Exactly. Now, you mentioned in your book that for those of us who like to think dollar-wise, that there's 3 reasons why customer service is so important. What are those? For
a business, if you manage to make customer service a standout feature of your business, number one, you're going to attract more customers, especially now with how quickly digital word of mouth can spread. You're going to retain your existing customers. You're going to get existing customers to spend more on your products, your line extensions, and so forth.
So I guess I'm laughing because isn't that what every business wants? Retain, increase, and attract new customers.
Exactly. So I call customer service the new marketing. In the 60s and the 50s, well, even into the 80s, you could hire Don Draper and Peggy Olson, or their real-life equivalents, of course. And they were such brilliant marketers that whatever they were helping you sell, even if it would literally kill your customers like Lucky Strikes, would sell. But we're in a different era now. Another great advertising campaign is the Lonely Maytag Repairman.
I remember that.
And it's
I remember
a great
that
image. He's so bored and he's so lonely. I know some of your listeners have only seen him on the History Channel, but he's so bored and he's so lonely because Maytag washers and dryers supposedly are so defect-free. So it's great advertising. The problem is that today it's your own experience. It's the experience of people you trust in the real world, and it's the experience of people you listen to online that determines how you think about Maytag. And if those experiences, whether personally experienced or relayed to you, are good, then, yeah, you'll think that Maytag advertising is really cool. You're like, yeah, that guy must be really bored. But if the word on the street and the word on the internet and the word in your family and what you've experienced yourself with Maytag is that it's a little rinky-dink, then you're going to take all of that beautiful advertising ironically, which is not what any manufacturer wants.
And one thing, just in going through your book, It just strikes me now, maybe I'm incorrect, but this seems like a very inexpensive way for any company, whether it's a local dentist office, a small accounting firm, a little larger maybe law firm in the neighborhood, just simple customer service. And as we said, almost what a lot of us would call common courtesy that can really impress customers and at a very low cost keep those customers and bring in new ones because you return phone calls or you get back to them on time or you provide them whatever tax information they might need or, information to fix their car or their plumbing or whatever. Am I correct with that? It's very low on the cost?
Yeah, it's much more. Makes much more sense cost-wise than a lot of other forms of marketing, because many times you can use your existing resources, your existing employees. They only need to understand what you want from them. You need an excellent statement of purpose, and a statement of purpose needs to be short enough to be memorable and long enough to be meaningful. So a great statement of purpose is the Mayo Clinic, one of our great healthcare institutions. Their statement of purpose is only 7 words long, and only one of them is longer than 1 syllable. It is the needs of the patient come first. So you get a very simple statement of purpose, and then you convince your employees that you actually mean it, that when a customer needs something, even if it's not in their daily to-do list of your employee, you are going to be celebrated for taking care of that customer. So you really mean it. At the end of the day, if the employee doesn't get everything done on their checklist, but they really helped out a couple frantic customers at tax time, as you use as an example, then that is considered fantastic behavior. So once you got the statement of purpose, you build it into everything at your company. You build it into the onboarding, which is also called orientation of the new employees. You don't tell them, here's all the ways you can get fired here for violating all these things. I mean, you may have to tell them that, but the main thing you tell them is that their purpose is to, whatever it is, delight customers and to serve even their unexpressed needs and wishes, which is one I just borrowed there from the Ritz-Carlton Hotel Company, to serve even the unexpressed needs and wishes of our guests.
I think those two, if we just copy those, we would have fantastically successful businesses, assuming we have even a minor level of competence at whatever we do.
Don't you think? Yeah. I think so, too.
And a lot of happy customers. Now, I read in your book the term automatic positivity. What is that?
Another way to say automatic positivity, because that's a lot of syllables I'm realizing now, is building a culture of yes, a culture where yes is expected, and all you have to find out is what the customer is looking for, and you already know the answer is going to be yes. You get this feeling when you walk into Nordstrom. Do you have a Nordstrom near you?
I do, yes, very close.
Excellent. So you walk into Nordstrom, and I get 2 impressions, right? One is, I'm going to pay a lot for this suit, right? Because the place is so beautiful. It's what my dad calls a house of high price. But
I like that.
But my other impression outweighs that one, and it is, wow, these people really want to get to yes with me. They really want to find something they can take care of for me. And that's a powerful feeling. It really unites your employees, and it really reassures your customers. So that's what I call automatic positivity.
Now, I think early on in your book, Micah, there's a 4-step process that you tell businesses, and it's very simple. Could you take us through that for automatic positivity? I think that was around page 6 or 7.
4 steps are number 1, and these aren't in any particular order, but model this yes behavior yourself. If you're the manager or the owner and you're not willing to make yes your default, why should anyone else? And be really aware of what comes out of your mouth when employees are listening. I've heard, funny, crusty old founders of companies who have all these war stories about how people try to rip them off. What was one of them? It was how this 20-year-old girl, her mom had her dress up in little kids' clothes to try to get in under the age limit for the buffet. So just stories like that, and they're really funny, but it says the wrong message. It says, hey, employees, you're supposed to be looking for customers who are trying to take advantage of us, so you can say no to them. So model the yes behavior yourself. Spell out your commitment to yes. Write this default of yes into your company standards and publicize those standards throughout your company. Now, one way you can publicize it, there's a great new hotel chain called Virgin Hotels, and I spent some time with Richard Branson, which I discuss in the book, talking about his new brand. So what they have in every guest room is a telephone, these lovely telephones with bright red lettering on it and just one button. And the one button says yes by it with an exclamation mark. And if you press that button, a very nice person at the other end of the line with this lovely British accent, probably fake because this was in downtown Chicago where I tried this, but with beautiful voice, will say yes, and then they will really find whatever you're looking for. There's no reason for you to go to other departments and so forth. They're going to take care of it for you. And these telephones make a visible statement throughout the hotel that yes is our default.
I want to go there already, just hearing what you just said about them. They actually got a free commercial, but I honestly, if I'm in an area where I see, you said it's called the Virgin Hotel?
Virgin Hotels, yeah.
If I ever see one or if I pass one, I'm definitely going to try that because it just sounds so enticing, and it's given me an image of the hotel that is a place where I want to stay.
Absolutely. I think it really is.
Micah, before we go further, I would just want to let our audience know that if you're just tuning in, you're listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, but the important person today is Micah Solomon. He's our guest, and he's written a book called Ignore Your Customers and They'll Go Away. Micah, can you tell us where we can get the book and
Absolutely.
the website?
So it's Ignore Your Customers and They'll Go Away, the simple playbook for delivering the ultimate customer service experience. And you can get this at my somewhat jokey URL, which is ignorethisbook.com. If that's too silly for you, you can try ignoreyourcustomers.com. Either way, you'll have a choice of getting 3 chapters free from me, 3 full chapters, and I picked good chapters, they're not like the index and so forth. 3 good chapters, or you can order it. And if you order a book now, I'm small time enough that your order will probably skyrocket me to my personal goals for the day. So I'm grateful if you do that. So ignorethisbook.com.
And Micah, in your book, you mention about steps to creating a customer service culture. And I think you make it so easy for us. I think it's on page 17. You have 5 steps to creating this culture. Can you tell our audience that if they're running that small accounting firm or the law firm or the dental office, what are the steps that you'd recommend that they get involved with?
So I should back up and tell you guys what I do. Obviously, I write books, but I am a customer service and company culture consultant. I'm also called the customer service turnaround expert. So I'll come into companies that want to improve their service. They don't necessarily have terrible customer service. In fact, usually they have pretty okay customer service, but they want it dramatically improved, and so they hire me. And often I find what's lacking is what I would call a customer service culture. So if you feel that you don't yet have a culture of customer service, of putting the customer in the center, here are 5 steps to take that will help you get there in pretty short order. Then you just have to spend the rest of your life nurturing this culture, which is an endless process. So number 1, define your purpose in a sentence or 2, and that's what I was just talking about. The needs of the patient come first at Mayo Clinic or at the Ritz-Carlton. The Ritz-Carlton is a place where the authentic care of our guests is the highest purpose. I'm actually paraphrasing that. I'm not getting it quite right, but that's approximately it. So define your purpose in a sentence or 2. That's number 1. Set down a short list of principles that are fundamental to your desired culture. Number 3 is express your cultural expectations at every possible juncture. This will be from recruitment to hiring to onboarding to training to reinforcement, even to how you celebrate someone when they leave your company because they got something that's more aligned with their career goals. Number 4, maintain a repeating ritual for cultural reinforcement. So what does that mean? Well, one of the best repeating rituals, and I know that this doesn't fit in every industry. For example, my brother's in academia, and this is not something he didn't tell me this, but I don't think this is something you could ever get professors to agree to because that's like herding cats or herding lions or something. But for the rest of us, I really recommend this, and that is a repeating ritual, which is that every day of the week, for no more than 10 minutes, you have what I call a customer service minute, And during that minute, you discuss just one of your customer-friendly principles. Have a different person lead it every day so that it doesn't always fall on a manager, or it doesn't even need to ever fall on a manager. And you'll discuss the principle, what it means, examples of people who really hit it out of the park, taking care of embracing that principle, taking care of your customers in a way that matches that principle. You can also share funny times where it really fell apart, or customers with whom it was just impossible to get to yes. Any of that is fair game for your customer service minute. Finally, develop an obsession with what I call talent management. Talent management is how you recruit, it's how you hire, and then it's how you develop employees. Every single business says something along the lines of people are our most important resource, and you know it's not true. It's about as true as safety first. You know, the joke the joke is safety fifth, right? So you know it's not true. But what if it really were true? What if you realize that people are your most important resource? Then you would be meeting with them at regular intervals to see if the work is really engaging the employee and if the employee has ideas for how they can contribute more to the organization. So develop an obsession with what I call talent management.
Now, Micah, you have an interesting story that involved, obviously, yourself with the Nordstrom department store. Can you tell us about that anecdote?
So Nordstrom, what happened was Nordstrom sold my favorite kind of short-sleeve button-down shirts. Yes, I wish I worked at NASA, apparently, because I love these short-sleeve button-down shirts. They're made by Fashionable, which I think has gone out of business, and so Nordstrom no longer carries them. So my salesperson, I'm going to name names here, Joanne Hassis, Hassis, realized that she couldn't literally get me the shirts that I love. So what did she do? Well, the closest thing she could find to them was at Brooks Brothers, like a direct competitor, right? Brooks Brothers. So she found me the exact link on their website and told me, you know, I had her blessing to go to Brooks Brothers and buy this one item, which I did. I did rather than, you know, sitting at home and sulking about Fashionable not being available. I did buy these alien shirts, and they're very nice. But you can be sure number one, that Nordstrom didn't make any money on that sale. Number two, they took the risk that I wouldn't become an overall Brooks Brothers customer, which I haven't. And number three, that they knew that this would pay off in the long run. And I do buy everything else in my wardrobe, except I guess my New Balance sneakers from Joanne.
Isn't that wonderful, though? A store that you have that much confidence in, and as a result of a kindly and a good neighborly, let's call it that way, act, they're getting free publicity through your book. They're getting it on the show. And anybody listening, I think, is going to say, you know what, let me give that Nordstrom store a try. If they're that good and that they'll go that far out of the way for you, they must be selling a good product, because they're not certainly, you know, passing along cheap items that it's kind of a one-shot deal, you know, like what do they call it, the dollar store or $5 store or something. So it obviously has worked for them. They're retaining you as a customer. They're making more money through you, and they're going to be getting a lot of other customers who hear our show this evening. So it's all good.
Exactly.
Everything is working for us.
Now, for that to work, management needs to embrace this. So there's any number of stores where what Joanne did might even be a firing offense for all I know. But they would understand at Nordstrom why she did that, and they would embrace it.
Micah, once again, we want our audience to know that if you're just tuning in, you're listening today to the Voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, and the show is The Secrets of Success. Our guest is Micah Solomon. He's the author of Ignore Your Customers and They'll Go Away. And Micah, would you tell us, A, where we can get the book, and B, a website where we can get some more information?
Okay, great. So a very easy to remember website to get the book is ignorethisbook.com, or if you prefer, ignoreyourcustomers.com. And that'll give you a choice of either getting 3 chapters for free from me digitally, or you can order the book right there. It's going to take you it'll flow through to Amazon, and you can order the book. Or please, go to your local bookseller if you still have one, and that would make me even happier if you did that.
We want to make you happy.
What'd you say?
We want to make you happy. We want to be like Nordstrom's. Anything to make you happy.
Well, no, you're my customer.
All
I
right.
make you happy. My website, if you're looking for consulting or answers to customer service questions, is just my name, but it's tricky to spell if you're not good at spelling biblical names. It's MicahSolomon.com, so I'll spell that. M as in Mark, I, C as in Charlie, A, H as in Hooray, S as in Sam, O, L as in Larry, O, M as in Mark, O, N as in Nancy.com. It's not MicahSolomon.com, it's MicahSolomon.com.
Now, Micah, in your book you mentioned, and this is something that took me by surprise. I can understand treating the customer well and going out of their a company going out of their way to help the customer. But you say how you treat the people who serve your customers. Can you talk about that a bit, because that seems to be a new area, certainly for me.
So this is what I call the company culture matrix, and it's your goal should be to treat your customers great and to treat the people who serve your customers equally well. And that means your employees. It also means your vendors, your contractors, anyone like that. And then what makes it tricky is you need to serve them at that great level on good days, but also on days that are really stressful. Like yesterday was a snowstorm here, and we were in the Seattle area, which has not very snowy weather, so I think you guys would laugh that we call it a snowstorm. But it was enough to knock out our power and so forth. But I still managed to kind of MacGyver my way into being on a radio show I'd already agreed to do, rather than call-ins as a snow day. So that's serving your customers just as well, even on a stressful day. When you go to Disney, the parks, Disney's a funny beast where they actually seem to operate best if they're at 80% or more capacity. They kind of don't know what to do. They're kind of a little bit at a loss if they only have maybe 10% of what the parks can handle. But most of us are exactly the opposite, right? When things are slow, we spend that extra time with each customer or with each of our fellow employees, or we're nice to our vendors, and then maybe we're a little abrupt when we're under more stress. So strive to treat your employees or your fellow employee and your customers and your vendors. Try to treat them all great, and try to do that on a hard day and on a low-stress day equally.
Now, Micah, again, we go back to the local businesses that we all see, the architectural firm, the title company. If someone is hiring and they're listening to you, they've read your book, they hear the show, they want to adopt some of these principles, when you're hiring a person, are we looking for that person who has super personality? Is there a magic test or some ground rules that we should look for? Or are there personality traits just to avoid?
So ideally, if you're looking for someone in a customer-facing position, you will stop hiring only for their technical skills. Like I can remember when we were a small business and we were just desperate to have people we could plug in immediately. And so essentially, if they knew how to use an Excel spreadsheet, or they can fool us into thinking they did, they were hired. But That's not the right way to do it. The right way to do it is, in addition to whatever technical skills are required to do parts of the job, you also want someone with the right personality traits for customer service. Now, unfortunately, our personality traits tend to get solidified by the time we are in our 20s. There are exceptions to it, but that is the norm. There are some great exceptions, but that's the norm. So if you're hiring an adult, you can pretty reliably find out what these traits are by administering a valid psychological assessment on them. The best way to do this is to hire a company to do it for you, but if that is completely out of your budget, which I totally understand, then the second best way is to buy a psychological profiling tool that you can buy off the shelf or lease off the shelf, and that's the second best way. The third best way, or the worst way, is just to go with my rules of thumb, or actually they're a rule of all 5 of my fingers. And Bill, you're never going to forget this if I teach it to you in the right way. So think of a wet dog. Are you thinking of a wet dog?
I got it.
All right, put that wet dog in your mind outside of Petco, all right?
Sure.
What color is the dog?
In my view, it's a kind of a brown tannish dog.
Okay, great. But the part that I told you was that, is it dry or is it...
Oh, it's wet. It's wet.
Okay. And what store is it standing outside?
Petco.
Okay, great. So in very broad strokes, these are traits that make you have the best chance of hitting it off with your customers. Number one, the W is warmth. This is simply liking other people. And Bill, I assume you're one of those people, because
I do.
Isn't
yes.
that true of all lawyers? All lawyers have to like people.
A lot of people may not think that, but I do like people. Yes, but that is a characteristic
okay.
of
mine.
mine.
So that's just simply liking people. E is empathy. This is more involved. This is knowing or tending to be able to sense what someone else is feeling before they even say it to you. T is teamwork. This is a willingness to involve the rest of your team in helping customers. C is conscientiousness, and this basically means detail-orientedness. And finally, O, optimism. What I mean by optimism is an optimistic explanatory style. So if you have a pessimistic explanatory style, a customer, I love them, but sometimes they're going to bite your head off. And if they do that and you have a negative explanatory style, you're going to be so upset, you're going to leave for the rest of the day, you're going to go home, you're going to crawl under the covers and never go back to that job because you think you did something terrible and you just can't handle it. If you have an optimistic explanatory style, which is much better, it's much better unless you're a chief safety officer or something like that, right? It's a little you want a little pessimism from that person. But for most jobs, an optimistic explanatory style, you'll think, wow, well, that was a challenging conversation I just had with that customer, but maybe he had a bad day. I'm always willing to improve. I'm going to ask my manager if there's something I should have done differently. But barring that, I'm going to dust myself off and talk to the next customer.
Micah, I want to thank you. As you can hear, it's getting time for our show to be over, but unfortunately, because we're having a lot of fun with you, our guest today.
Yes, this is great.
Again, to our audience, ignore your customers and they'll go away, by our guest, Micah, spelled M-I-C-A-H, Solomon, S-O-L-O-M-O-N. Get a copy of this and watch those new customers come into your business. Micah, thanks so much for being with us today. I'd like our audience to know that you've been listening to The Secrets of Success on the voice of Nassau Community College, 90.3 WHPC. I'm your host, Bill Horan, asking you to please join us again next week when we'll continue our journey to success.